Walters is the place to be this Saturday. The DC Defenders play at 3 p.m. at Audi Field, and the Nats host the Mariners at 4, plus the World Cup is on all day. Walters is located across the street from Nationals Park, just off South Capitol Street.
Mom, can you tell me a story?
Sure. Once upon a time, a mom needed a new car.
Was she brave?
She was tired, mostly. But she went to Carvana.com and found a great car at a great price. No secret treasure map required.
Did you have to fight a dragon?
Nope, she bought it 100% online. From her bed, actually.
Was it scary?
Honey, it was as unscary as car buying could be.
Did the car have a sunroof?
It did, actually.
Okay, good story.
Car buying you'll want to tell stories about. Buy your car today on
Carvana.
Delivery fees may apply.
Big color, bigger savings. Sherwin-Williams Super Sale is here. Get 40% off paints and stains June 5th through the 11th with prices starting at $30.89. Whether you're refreshing your interior or exterior, we've got the colors to bring your vision to life. And with delivery, getting everything to your door is easier than ever. Shop online to have it delivered or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details. Delivery available on qualifying orders.
And now the pitch. Swing and a drive hit well to right center field. This is deep. Young going back, way back, going, and gone. Goodbye. Hope Emerson has his 5th home run in 21 games for the Mariners. And they have made this a 5-run inning. It's Seattle 5 and Washington nothing. Still only 1 out. First pitch swung on, hit in the air to deep right center field. Cruz is back of the warning truck at the wall, looking up, and it is gone. Home run. Dominic Canzone has his 10th home run of the year, his 3rd run batted into the night, and 29th of the year. And it is now Seattle 9 and Washington 1.
And welcome to Nats Chat. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. I'm joined by Washington Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman of NatsJournal.com. He's at Nationals Park, where Friday night was not such a good night. A 10-2 loss to the Seattle Mariners at Nationals Park in Game 1 of a 3-game series, a game for which the start was delayed for 2 hours and 11 minutes due to rain. So you think about the Nats in recent days here. We had the hideous 11-10 walk-off loss at the San Francisco Giants this past Wednesday in a game in which the Nats blew a 9-1 8th-inning lead and a 10-6 9th-inning lead. Then we had the Nats on Friday evening having to endure a 2-hour, 11-minute rain delay. And then we had the Nats on Friday night getting blown out. They in MLB's 2026 regular season now are back at 500, 35-35, just 12-21 at home versus 23-14 on the road. The run differential is back to negative territory at -1. Now, the Mariners are a good team. They lead the American League West at 37-34. Good to have you with us. This installment of Nats Chat brought to us by Steve Solomon's at-large candidacy for Montgomery County Council. Visit voteSteveSolomon.com. As early voting now is underway. For more information on our pal, Steve Solomon, a.k.a. Solly, check out my conversation with him on this past Thursday's installment of the Al Galdi podcast, episode 1345. So we on Friday night did get home runs from James Wood and Dylan Cruz. That was nice, but the Nats, unfortunately, did not do what was done to them on Wednesday, and that is overcome a 9-1 8th-inning deficit. The Nats in this game actually trailed 9-1 heading to the bottom of the 8th, just as the Giants did on Wednesday. Mark, were you anticipating the Nats doing to the Mariners what the Giants did to the Nats?
No, I was not, Al. You know why? Because you never should expect anybody to come back from a 9-1 deficit in the 8th inning, and it's why Wednesday's game was so unusual and so demoralizing, because that stuff just doesn't happen on any kind of regular basis. So, no, I did not feel a comeback. It was nice to see Dylan Cruz hit that home run right away to lead off the bottom of the 8th. But look, I think if you just take this game in a vacuum, not a big deal. It happens. Zack Littell got knocked out early. They're trailing by a bunch, and you just kind of played out the string against a very good Mariners team. I think the problem is when you pair this up with Wednesday's game, and more specifically the end of Wednesday's game, that's where you start to think like, oh boy, they didn't exactly bounce back from that one very well. Now, that doesn't mean that this had anything to do with that, but the fact remains, you just mentioned that their run differential is now in negative territory. Well, that's what happens when you've been outscored in your last 11 innings, 20-3. That's troubling. Now, again, it's only 11 innings of baseball, so it doesn't necessarily predict what's going to happen next, but boy, they kind of need to get this back on track soon and not give anybody legitimate reason to worry that this thing's about to fall apart.
And it's a compliment to Zack Littell that I feel like a lot of us, certainly I was, were surprised by what happened with him in this game on Friday night. But man, what happened with him in this game on Friday night was not pretty. I mean, this was the Zack Littell who was on display earlier this season. Littell, in this 10-2 loss to the Mariners at Nationals Park on Friday night, bad for the first time in 6 outings, but he wasn't just bad. He had a blow-up outing. He allowed 5 runs in 1 2/3 innings. It's funny, Zack Littell, a starting pitcher for whom an opener has been used a good bit, he essentially acted as an opener, although unwillingly and not on purpose, in this game on Friday night. 5 runs, 1 2/3 innings, despite, and this was odd, throwing a ton of strikes, 56 pitches, 43 strikes, just 13 balls. But yeah, 56 pitches over his mere 1 2/3 innings. He actually tossed a perfect top of the first, but he then completely unraveled in the top of the second, during which he allowed 5 runs on a home run, a triple, 2 singles into walk. He gave up a 2-run triple by Dominic Canzone off the outfield wall in center field on an 0-2 pitch for a 2-0 Mariners lead. And Littell gave up a 1-out 2-run homer by Colt Emerson to right center field on a 1-2 pitch for a 5-0 Mariners lead. A key aspect of Littell having done well over his previous 5 outings was not giving up the home run. Gave up the home run in this outing, gave up a triple in this outing. And this was like the polar opposite of the Zack Littell who we had been seeing over his previous 5 outings.
Yeah, this was April Zack Littell, not May Zack Littell. Now, as you pointed out, he threw a lot of strikes. And that's why he described this as kind of a weird outing in his mind, because he didn't feel like he was that off. The pitch to Canzone that turned into a triple, he knew that was a bad pitch. Otherwise, he felt like he was mostly throwing it where he wanted to, and he was giving the Mariners a lot of credit for extending their at-bats. Most of the damage came with 2 strikes. He wound up throwing 43 pitches in that second inning alone, and he only faced 7 hitters that inning. So that's like 6 pitches per batter. They were taking long at-bats. He was getting to 2 strikes, and he couldn't put them away. And I think it's a reminder that with him, because he doesn't have the overwhelming stuff, he's got to be so pinpoint with his command that he can throw strikes but not have success, because if it's not right on the edges of the zone or even off the plate a little bit and getting him to swing at it, he can be hit hard. And I think that was the frustrating part of this for him, is that he felt like he was throwing it generally where he wanted to and not having success. They were either fouling them off, or he was just extending those at-bats and waiting for a pitch they could do more damage with. And ideally, you let him go further in this game. But as Blake Butera said, you throw 43 pitches in 1 inning, that's danger zone right there. You really can't let him go any further. And so they felt compelled to remove him from the game, even though he certainly had the ability to go deeper. You're just worried about what's going to happen if that inning extends any longer.
And you have the off day on Thursday. The bullpen comes into this series fresh. And from the get-go now, you have a bullpen that has been taxed and that has been leaned on a lot with what had to go down in this game on Friday night. Your updated Zack Littell stats: 14 games, including 10 starts, ERA 5.32, whip 1.35. Man, he is a hard guy to figure out, because when he has been good, he actually has looked really good, but the bad has been like putrid. I mean, it is rough when he has been bad. And that was what we got on Friday evening. And it's a little frightful when you think about, okay, when this guy's off, he's really off. Like, it's, he lasts for less than 2 innings, that kind of off. And that's obviously not good.
Yeah, and it's just a fine line with him, because he doesn't have overpowering stuff that you're going to get the 2 extremes, I think, with him. But let's keep in mind his last 7 games, 6-0 with an ERA in the low 2s. So he was having a tremendous amount of success over the last month or so. But if he can't get swings and misses, and if an opposing team is seeing him well enough to just foul off those tough pitches on the edges, he doesn't have a lot else to turn to. And so as opposed to somebody like a Cade Cavalli, who has the ability to get swings and misses, over the plate, Littell does not have that. And so I think that lends itself to that kind of variance as you're talking about. There's no in-between starts with him. He's either going to be really effective or he's not going to have it, and then you see what happened in this game.
Yeah, if you group together his best 5 outings and then group together his worst 5 outings and did the compare and contrast, I mean, it's like night and day to the extreme with what he has put forth in those various outings.
Hello, Montgomery County, Maryland listeners of Nats Chat. This is for you. I'm Steve Solomon, candidate for Montgomery County Council at Large. You may remember me from my 20 years on local radio as Solly at the Team 980, where I worked with Nats Chat's own Al Galdi, Mark Zuckerman, and Tim Shovers. I myself am a podcaster now as well. I'm asking for your vote for Montgomery County Council at Large. Over the last 10 years, I've gotten much more involved in local issues in Montgomery County. I'm an active member of my civic association, the County Civic Federation. I volunteer at nonprofits. I serve on the board of directors of the Montgomery County Sports Hall of Fame, the Sports Advisory Committee, and the Library Board. Montgomery County is a great place to live. We've got incredible parks, libraries, restaurants, businesses, and most of all, people. That's why I'm running, because I think we can do better, whether it's at economic development and bringing in more businesses, helping the small businesses that are already here by streamlining permitting and cutting the red tape on inspections, or growing our partnerships with our thousands of amazing nonprofits. Doing those things will give us more money to keep all the services and programs we love funded, like programs for our seniors, taking care of homeowners and renters, and funding our parks, libraries, and rec centers. Once again, this is Steve Solomon. I'm running for Montgomery County Council at Large, and I'm asking for your vote. Early voting runs June 11th through June 18th. Election day is June 23rd. You can learn more about me or how to contact me at votestevesolomon.com.
Now the pitch. Inside, gets away from Ruiz. Runner breaking for the plate. The throw to Cornelio will not be in time. Young scores. The other runners move up. Rodriguez to third. Robles to second. And with that, it's now the Mariners 6 and the Nationals 1.
So Littell was not very good in this game for the Nats, and the Nats relief pitching in this game ended up not being good. 3 Nats relievers combined to allow 5 runs in 7 and a third innings. Now, Riley Cornelio was summoned to come into the game for long relief. His final line doesn't look good, but he actually did, I thought, a pretty good job. 3 runs in 4 and a third innings. He, in the top of the 5th, allowed 3 runs on 2 singles, 2 walks, and a run-scoring wild pitch, but he actually otherwise pitched well. He tossed a perfect top of the 3rd, a scoreless top of the 4th, and a perfect top of the 6th. Now, the Nats, in the early morning hours of Saturday morning, announced having optioned Cornelio to AAA Rochester, clearly needing a fresh arm, but I actually didn't think that he was that bad in this game. Paxton Schultz, 1 run in 2 innings, top of the 8th, gave up a leadoff first pitch homer by Dominic Canzone to right center for a 9-1 Mariners lead, and Gus Varland, he allowed 1 run in 1 inning. He, in the top of the 9th, gave up a 2-out first pitch homer by Josh Naylor to right field for a 10-2 Mariners lead. What did you think about Cornelio in this game?
Much better. You know, it's only 3 games we have to judge him off of in the big leagues, but this was easily, I think, the best of them. Those first 2 and a third innings, he was getting ahead in the count and throwing strikes. And you saw the success that he had and was able to get outs with his slider. His fastball is electric, but he's got to be able to land the slider in or near the zone to have a chance. And he was able to do that those first few innings. Now, in the 5th inning, for whatever reason, he started falling behind in the count, and that's where all the damage came from. And you saw the big inning with 3 runs. But to his credit, he came right back and he retired the last 4 batters that he faced. So overall, I think a lot of encouraging stuff. And I don't think his demotion has anything to do with the performance. It has everything to do with the fact that he threw 73 pitches, would not be available for another 4 or 5 days. Well, they're going to need a fresh arm. And so this was always the dilemma of having a guy like this up here. If you want to use him in this kind of role, and he's never pitched in relief before, then you have to still keep him on something like a starter's schedule as he learns how to do this. Well, you can do that if you're getting quality starts from everybody else and your bullpen isn't taxed. But here we are, as you said, in game 1 of the homestand, and already they're taxed. They have to get a fresh arm up here. So I'll be curious to see what the plan is for him down there. Are they going to have him start again? Are they going to have him pitch out of the bullpen? If in their mind his future here is as a reliever, then I hope they give him the opportunity to actually learn how to pitch in relief. And that means pitching every 2 or 3 days and seeing how his arm recovers from that. If that's their plan for him, then that's what they should do. And I'd rather see that happen at AAA than at the big league level. But I don't really know what their plan is for him. It's been a very odd situation, the way they called him up for the one game in April, the way they called him back up here over the last week, and the way they've now used him. I'm not entirely sure what their plan is for him. I just hope that whatever it is, they stick with it and give him every opportunity to learn how to pitch effectively in that spot and not just throw him to the wolves like they kind of have here in the big leagues.
And this optioning of Cornelio to AAA Rochester in the 12 a.m. Eastern hour of Saturday morning ends up being the first roster move off the Wednesday walk-off in San Francisco. The Nats did not make any bullpen moves over the course of the day on Thursday, as I think a lot of people anticipated. Did not make any bullpen moves over the course of the day on Friday, up until what we got here with Cornelio early Saturday morning. Nothing happening with the bullpen. Mitchell Parker is still a part of the Major League active roster. Pretty surprising.
Yeah, I thought they would do so. As I wrote, as I said, I really thought we'd be seeing PJ Poulin on Friday. Maybe we'll see him on Saturday, but at this point, I'm not going to make any more predictions. I will tell you that Blake Butera, when asked about these various things, the 2 points he made, number one, he said he didn't feel like it was appropriate to make any rash decisions based off of one game. And I respect that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think what you could argue against that is, particularly with Parker, that wasn't just one game. This is what's been going on for a little while. And it was really, as we said, more about just the bullpen construction and the lack of a second matchup lefty that they probably could have used in that game instead of having to go to Parker. He did speak highly of Parker and basically said that he felt like when they called him up from AAA earlier this year, they saw good things from him. They believe he can adapt to a bullpen role and be effective for them. And I suppose you give a little benefit of the doubt here because they have done a nice job helping guys like Zack Littell and Miles Michaelis improve from where they were earlier on this year. If they believe they can do that with Parker, okay, let's see it. But I did expect them to do something, whatever that might look like. And obviously somebody new will be here on Saturday. I would guess it's Poulin, but I want to be careful not to just assume anything at this point.
Some of these bullpen ERAs really are getting ugly. I mean, Parker is at 5.91, but like you look at the guys who pitched on Friday evening beyond the starting pitcher, Zack Littell, and the first reliever, Riley Cornelio, Gus Varland is at 5.26. Paxton Schultz is at 5.93. Like when we talk about the bullpen being better, and it was for a while, in recent series, we've seen some ugliness, and the numbers really are rough for some of these guys. Even with someone like a Varland, who at times I think actually has looked pretty good, he's got a 5.26 ERA. I think we need to sort of put things in proper perspective. Yeah, at times certain guys have done some good things, but a lot of ERAs that start with fives, and that's not ideal.
And how about this? Gus Varland was the guy they put on the mound to start the ninth inning, trying to close out that game on Wednesday. And then he winds up being the guy pitching the ninth inning when they're trailing by 7 runs in this opener against Seattle. That maybe tells you that his stature in the bullpen is not quite as rock solid, or at least, he's not really considered the top guy, even though he does have their most saves, I believe. Right now, to me, the guys that I feel like I can trust out of that group are Orlando Ribalta, Brad Lord, and maybe to a lesser extent, Clayton Beeter. I'm not sure there's anybody else I'm really feeling that comfortable with right now, and that's a tricky spot to be in. You'd love to have more than 3 guys that you can trust, certainly because if you think you're going to win a majority of your games, you can't just win all those games with only those 3 relievers. So whoever it is, whether it's Poulin coming back, whether it's Lovelady, whether it's somebody else who's already here stepping up, you'd love to see somebody else establish themselves as a more reliable option there.
The Nats, as we're recording this, 4th worst relief pitching ERA in MLB at 4.86. And the problem continues to be the home run. The Nats have allowed the most relief pitching homers in the majors at 50. The next worst total, the Tampa Bay Rays, 42. 8 more homers allowed than the next worst total.
Swinging a long drive right field. Forget about it. This one's way back and into the second deck in the first row. Nationals on the board on James Wood's 19th home run.
So the Nats offense in this 10-2 loss to the Mariners at Nationals Park on Friday night, not good. The Nats in this game, just 2 runs, just 4 hits, which were 2 home runs and 2 singles, no walks, no at-bats with runners in scoring position. That's hard to do. I mean, even in most games in which a team isn't good offensively, the team still will get an at-bat or 2 with the runner in scoring position. That was not the case in this game. The Nats got worked by the Mariners starting pitcher Bryce Miller. He allowed 2 runs in 8 innings with 7 strikeouts versus no walks. Just so little was happening for the Nats offensively in this game. But if you're going to score 2 runs, I feel like this actually would be the way you want the 2 runs to be scored. Home runs by James Wood and Dylan Cruz. Maybe you want to say C.J. Abrams and James Wood, but given where we are with Cruz, I think you definitely want Cruz to be one of those 2 guys, and Cruz and Wood homered in this game. Wood actually had a nice game. He is the Nats starting left fielder and number 1 batter, went 2 for 4 with a solo homer and a single, and he had an outfield assist. Wood in the Nats 1-run 4th, a leadoff homer to right field to cut the Nats deficit to 5-1. The homer per Statcast going a projected 416 feet and registering a game-best exit velocity of 111.5 miles per hour. Wood in the bottom of the first had a leadoff single to right field, a single per Statcast, an exit velocity of 100.7 miles per hour. And Wood in the top of the 4th threw out Miles Mastroboni in his attempt to advance to second base on a 1-out opposite field single to left center. So some good stuff from James Wood and Dylan Cruz, who we, of course, are begging to hit for more power. He hit for power in this game. He was the Nats starting right fielder and number 5 batter, 1 for 3, solo homer. Cruz in the Nats 1-run 8th, a leadoff homer to left center to cut the Nats deficit to 9-2. That homer per Statcast going a projected 440 feet and registering an exit velocity of 109.5 miles per hour. I know it was garbage time, but anything like that from Cruz right now is well received, and really good to see him do that.
And if you remember the homer in Arizona last weekend, 432 feet. So when he gets a hold of it, he's really getting a hold of it. Now, it's a 3-0 pitch. It's a fastball. He just sold out and went for it and did damage. What you need to see from him is the ability to do things like that in a more traditional count, perhaps, where anything could be thrown. You can't just sit on a fastball to that extent. But he did his other 2 at-bats hit the ball in the air. Nothing on the ground. That was nice to see. Does continue to hit the ball hard with some regularity. So good signs. You just need to start to see more of it on a more regular basis.
It is nuts the season James Wood is having. You know, I think he's doing so well that there's a tendency to kind of take it for granted. But when you check in on what he's doing, I mean, he's having just an outstanding season. His slash line now, 274 batting average, 408 on base percentage, a 545 slugging percentage, 19 home runs. He's playing well defensively. He's running the bases, I think, for the most part well. And, you know, you talk about like MVP candidates. I'm not saying that he's a front runner for that, but like this is the kind of statistical profile that an MVP candidate does have. And we'll see what the Nats end up doing. But if the Nats do remain a surprisingly successful team for the majority of this season and Wood continues to put up these numbers, he should get some MVP votes. I'm not saying he should win it, but he should get some votes. Like he's having the kind of special season that MVP players have.
Yeah, I agree. You go 400, 500 on base and slugging, you're in the conversation. Now, as we know, even though this has changed somewhat in the last 10 to 15 years, it used to be you had to play on a playoff team to win MVP. That's not the case so much anymore. I think a lot of the writers have adapted their feelings about that, but it does help if you're on a prominent team and getting more attention and seen as somebody that's not just putting up big numbers, but helping your team win in the process. That's usually going to bolster your case. So yes, if they can stay at or above 500, I think that will help bring more attention to what he's doing. But I'd have to look it up. The number of Nats hitters over the years who've had a 400, 500 on base slugging numbers over a full season, I want to say it's like Bryce Harper and Juan Soto. I'm not sure anybody else has done that for them. It's more the 400 on base than it is the 500 slugging. That's a great combination to have. And then you put that with running the bases well, improved defense in the outfield. There's a whole lot to like, of course, about him. I mean, if nothing else, just stop and say 19 homers in 70 games. Like, do the math. You can understand where that means he's headed on this path. And while he's had a few slumps, really nothing that's lasted that long. And we know how streaky he can get at times. So to me, I think that's another good sign of progress here. It's a long way to go. And we know that he really tailed off in the second half last year. But other than that first week of the season and maybe a few games a while back where didn't look quite like himself, he has stayed pretty consistent with his production. I think that's a big deal.
If he gets asked to do the All-Star Game Home Run Derby again, will he do it? Should he do it? Discuss amongst yourselves.
I'm going to guess no. I have not brought it up with him. I'm going to guess he's going to decline this time, and he has every right to do that, I think.
I think it'd be really funny to see what he would do and what his justification for doing what he would do would be.
The White and the 3-0 pitch. Swung on. Cruz hits one to deep left center field. This is way back. Going, and gone. Goodbye. Over the red seats in left center, up into the tables area. A bomb, a long home run, 440 feet for Dylan Cruz. Bang, zoom goes Cruz with his third home run of the year. And RBI number 8. And it's now the Mariners 9 and the Nationals 2.
All right, the rain, everybody's favorite topic. So 6:45 first pitch. The game did not start until 8:56. Actually ended up being a pretty quick game, but nobody's happy with a delay to the start of the game of 2 hours and 11 minutes. Here's my thing. If you looked at the forecast for Friday, you knew what we were in store for, and that was a whole lot of sun, a whole lot of heat, but nothing in terms of rain until late in the day, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. I have brought this up before. I don't understand why the Nats don't embrace this more, and that is moving up the start time for a game on a day on which rain is expected during the time of the game, but not in the hours leading up to the game. And so you move up the start time to whatever you think is appropriate, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, etc. Now, I know that there was some rain prior to first pitch. Then it was weird because the start of the game gets delayed. It isn't raining at Nationals Park. It eventually, though, did rain. So the decision to delay the start of the game, if you were going to stick with the 6:45 first pitch, I think in retrospect may well have been the right call. But to me, the issue here was not moving up the start time of the game. By the way, this does happen across MLB. This is not some foreign alien thing to do. Teams do this. The Nats, for whatever reason, do not. What is your assessment of how the rain situation was handled for this game on Friday?
As far as moving the time up, it's a really tricky thing to pull off. And I know, like you said, some teams have done it. I feel like when that happens, it's because of a major system that is going to come in at a certain time and it's going to last all night into the next day. This is like that classic summertime afternoon, evening thunderstorms that coming in from the west. And you can try to predict the timing of it, but it's not quite as simple as that. It's also the first game of a series. And I know the Mariners came in from Baltimore, so it's not like they were flying in from across the country. But I feel like typically if you're going to do something like changing the start time of a game, it's more likely to happen later in a series than at the beginning because there's always more flexibility if something happens that first night than you have the 2 games still to play. I think the mistake here, and I understand why it happened, but I think the mistake was not starting the game on time. They announced it was 6:15, something like that, when they announced that the start would be delayed. And that's always tough when you see the sun out and you're like, well, all right, I guess there's a system coming. But you looked at it and you said, it might hit us then, but it's probably not going to be here at 6:45. It's probably going to be later than that. And then it's just a question of how far into the game would you get before that rain hits? I understand. You don't want to burn starting pitchers. Neither team wants to do that. But it's also not great when everybody is sitting around for an hour without a raindrop falling. And that's what happened. The rain didn't really fall till about 7:45, maybe 7:40 or something like that. That's tough. That's a whole hour. If it's 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and you're only getting 1 inning in, maybe 2 innings, I get it. But they could have easily played 3 full innings. And then this is the other part of it. The rain only lasted about 20 minutes. And it was hard. I mean, they would have been in a delay for sure. But it only lasted about 20 minutes. You could have gotten the field prepped again. maybe the starting pitchers could have come back and it wouldn't have had to be a case where you burned them up. And then obviously the game would have ended a lot sooner than it did in the 11 o'clock hour. So it's tricky. I feel like whatever they end up doing, they always make the wrong decision. Like they could try to play the game and then they have to go into delay and they burn up their starting pitchers, or they do like they did in this case and try to be proactive about it. And they end up wasting like an hour that they could have been playing. And the problem is, because these are starting pitchers, you got to give them the full time to warm up. And so even though it stopped raining, they still needed like 45 minutes before the game could start to get the field ready, and more specifically, the pitchers. I would hate to be the one making those calls. I think it's easy for all of us on the outside to say, oh, they should have done this, they should have done that. It's not as easy as it sounds. But in the end, yeah, they didn't make the right call. They probably should have just started the game on time and dealt with a brief delay in, say, the fourth inning or so.
Yeah, and at least if you do move up the start time, which again was something, you don't have to be a weather expert to have anticipated this. All of the forecasts said the same thing. The rain's not coming till late in the day. At least you have some more real estate to play with. You know, when you don't start till 6:45 and then you delay from there, you know, you're shrinking the time within which you can play the game. If at least you say, okay, we're going to start this thing at 4, even if there is a delay, you know, you're resuming the game at whatever, 6:30, 7 o'clock. It's not unreasonable. I also think you have to look at it from the consumer perspective. Okay, like if you're a ticket paying fan and you have to sit through a 2-hour and 11-minute delay to a start of a game, to what extent does that dissuade you, disincentivize you from going to future games? You know, like it's one thing if you're a season ticket holder, but if you're a family of 4 and you only go to a few Nats games a year, or maybe only one game per year, and the one game you go to includes a 2-hour and 11-minute rain delay, you know, to what extent does that say to you, I don't know if we want to do this again. I don't know if we want to sit through something like this again. So to me, if you're the team, what you're trying to do is avoid that scenario. And so you should do whatever it takes to avoid that scenario. And if it means changing the start time, I think you do that. I wish more teams would do that, be more proactive. I feel like teams so often err in that regard.
The counter argument to that, though, and I agree, like fans get so frustrated when they're sitting around, and yes, it probably affects whether they want to go to a game in the future, especially if the forecast is spotty. The counter argument, though, is on a Friday, if you at the last minute tell people, oh, hey, you know that 6:45 ticket you have, and we're actually going to start the game at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. That can be a tough ask for people who have work plans or, you know, have to deal with traffic or whatever else to say, hey, we want you to come to the ballpark 5-6 hours earlier on a weekday. I think that can also backfire, and you may end up with not nearly as many fans in attendance. Friday night crowds, I know this wasn't a big one, 22,000, but generally a Friday night's going to be a little bit bigger. People specifically pick that because it's the start of the weekend. I don't know what percentage of them would still be able to make it if it was earlier. I'm sure there's a decent amount that would not. You do that on a Saturday or a Sunday, I feel like it's a little easier sell to the fan base than to spring that on them on a Friday. That's just my opinion on it.
Yeah, you know, there's no perfect answer, as we know. A
roof is the perfect answer, but that's not happening either.
No, and a roof is unbelievably expensive. You know, to people who think like, oh, a roof only costs a few $1 million. No. A roof, you're talking like hundreds of millions of dollars to construct a stadium with a roof. It's unbelievable how much cost adding a roof to a stadium adds, to say nothing of a retractable roof, which is what, you know, you normally would want. So yeah, that probably will not be happening. Hey, a shout out to Amy, the Beltway Bagel Fairy, from her husband, Brian. Amy listens to Nats Chat very early in the morning while preparing and baking, and sons Jack and Wyatt also are avid Nats fans. Brian is so proud of Amy for how much effort she puts into something that she shares with others. Give the Beltway Bagel Fairy a follow on Instagram as well. How about that? The Beltway Bagel Fairy, a fan of this podcast. We appreciate that very much.
I did not know that, you know, we are the soundtrack for bagel baking. Hopefully that helps Amy, you know, craft the perfect bagel. I'm a little bit of a bagel connoisseur myself. I'm kind of particular about what I like in my bagels. So I hope she does it the proper way, boiling them first before you bake them. And hopefully our soothing voices every morning help Amy to put out the perfect bagels. I may have to try one of hers sometime.
Oh, Amy sounds like she knows what she's doing. So thank you very much for listening, Amy. This installment of Nats Chat brought to us by Steve Solomon's at-large candidacy for Montgomery County Council. Visit voteSteveSolomon.com as early voting now is underway. For more information on our radio pal Solly, check out my chat with him on this past Thursday's installment of the Al Galdi podcast, episode 1345. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat, courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening. We'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat podcast. And we're going to leave you with something special. MLB Pipeline senior writer Jim Callis, a scouting report on Justin Lebron, who is playing in the College World Series for Alabama. LeBron, a realistic possibility for the Nats with their number 11 overall pick in the 2026 MLB first-year player draft. And maybe / probably the only realistic possibility for the Nats at number 11 in terms of players currently playing in the College World Series. Enjoy.
LeBron drills it out to left. Bodies at the track. That ball is over the fence and gone.
Justin Lebron is on course to become the highest pick in Crimson Tide history, passing Joe Vitello, the number 7 overall choice in 1991. The only knock on LeBron is a tendency to chase pitches out of the zone, especially breaking balls. He's also making strides with his approach, his two-strike plan, and projects as an average hitter, which would make him an all-star. He's added 15 pounds and significant bat speed in college, giving him well above average raw power from the right side of the plate, and he also has a good feel for driving balls in the air. All the rest of LeBron's tools greatest plus, as does his makeup, and some evaluators think he's even better than that as a defender. It's a quick first step that allows him to steal bases and cover plenty of ground to both sides of shortstop. He can make any throw needed from anywhere short and would be an asset anywhere on the diamond.
Gibbler takes a look. LeBron takes off. LeBron is able to steal third. The ball gets away.